Grant us to seek the truth. Come whence it may, cost what it will. Amen. There's a song that I love, and it makes me cry every time I hear it. And sometimes I hear it on purpose. Not because I want to cry, but because I want to be inspired, because I want to be moved. And then I cry. I'm not a stranger through the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. Do you know that song? Yes, The Greatest Showman. It keeps going. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm going to send a flood, going to drown them out. I am brave. I am bruised. I am who I am meant to be. This is me. Look out, because here I come. And I'm marching to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. And I make no apologies. This is me. For those who might not be familiar with this show, it comes from The Greatest Showman. And it's the story of a circus, right? Peter Barnum is putting this group of misfits together. A group of freaks and rejects, right? People who are very different from everyone else in their lives. People who, their bodies are different, their experiences are different, and so they are rejected, right? They're put aside, they're not counted, right? And he brings them together. Let's make something fun. Let's make joy happen. But the thing about the story as it unfolds, the thing that stands out to me in this show is that sometimes being the thing that people laugh, the line between laugh at and laugh with is very thin sometimes. And so there's a process of self-acceptance, of self-growth that the characters have to go through. And so this song comes at a pivotal moment of saying, this is me, I'm going to own who I am. This is me. And that story feels so familiar to many of us, right? In one way or another, we feel different from others. We feel rejected for one thing or another. We feel like we cannot be our full self in the company of others. This is weird. I like this thing and I'm kind of geeky. I don't know how others will feel about that. I don't feel comfortable with this part of my body. I need to hide that, right? Or something bigger, like the person I love is not welcome and accepted in this place. Or the way that I present myself, the way that I know myself to be is not accepted in this place, and I need to hide that. So these themes of this song, of getting to that place of self-acceptance, resonates with so many of us. And it resonates with the three characters that we meet in the stories for today. Same sense of not belonging, same sense of being rejected by the larger society, of not quite fitting in, of not quite belonging. We start with Jacob. Good old Jacob, who gets always this feeling of being second best, of being the second one, of being overlooked, and he takes that and he runs with it because he's going to get his. And sometimes he lies and cheats in order to get his. And unfortunately, his past comes to haunt him. The weight of his mistakes, the things that he hasn't done well come to haunt him. And so he has this moment that we read about today where he has to wrestle. Who am I really? Who am I going to be? Right? I've always felt of myself as a reject, thought of myself as a second best, and so I've lied my way to get to where I am, and now I have to have a hard look at myself and choose who I'm going to be. And that's wrestling with God, right? Wrestling with demons, we might say in our cultural expression, but he has to face up to who he is. And he does it all night. In the presence of God, he wrestles. And God looks him in the eye and says, I know who you are. And the blessing that God gives Jacob in that moment when he actually confronts himself and says, I'm not going to be this person anymore. I'm choosing to go in a different direction. The blessing that he gets is, you are no longer Jacob. You are Israel, the one who wrestled with God and succeeded. God saw Jacob for who he was and who he wanted to be and changed his name so that forevermore he could be known as he truly was. In the New Testament, the Acts of the Apostle, we meet a man who was not like the others. In this time period, the word eunuch was used to describe a man who was not sexually like the others. Now, what exactly was with him, we don't really know. Sometimes people were castrated. Men were castrated because they were enslaved. They were conquered, right? And because he was castrated, then he was a sexual other. He was a sexual deviant. He did not belong. Did not belong like the others. Now, even as an other, sometimes because of that otherness, he was able to rise up in the ranks of the queen of Ethiopia. So he was a high-ranking man, and still, no matter how high-ranked he was always still not quite like the others because of his body. And yet, this eunuch was searching and yearning and wrestling in his own way to belong, to be seen, to be a part. So he went from his country all the way to Jerusalem to worship. And it's amazing because this man didn't even know like the fullness, the details. He didn't know all of the scriptures. He just knew, I gotta try because there's something inside of me that yearns to belong, to be a part of something, of this community of God. So he went, and there God saw him. God saw his yearning and his searching and sent Philip. Go, teach him, help him, explain the good news of Christ, that Christ comes for all. And then he comes to be and belong as the first Gentile to be baptized. The first person that comes in and he is baptized. He belongs to the family of God through baptism. What is it that he learned about Jesus that made him choose to be baptized? It was Jesus' message of radical welcome, that all belong. And that's what we find in the gospel. Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he, right, Deborah? And he wanted to see Jesus, a man who also didn't belong, a man who also wrestled with big demons, because whether willingly or unwillingly, he chose a profession. He chose to work for the man. He chose to work for the empire. And that was not good. That ostracized him. And many of the tax collectors would collect more taxes than were owed so that they could make a living. And Zacchaeus lived well. He was rich. So he did not belong to the community. He was pushed aside. And yet he was a man who searched. He was a man who yearned to belong and to be part. And he didn't let his stature get the best of him. Even as he was crowded, as happens, right? The people are crowding him and preventing him from accessing God. He was like, I'm going to do what I can. And he climbed up the tree. And this is the message of Jesus. This is the message that is transformative, right? That no matter what the crowd had to say about his character, about who he was, about what he had done in the past, Jesus said, Zacchaeus, I know you by name. I see that you are searching. I see that you are yearning, and I want to dine with you. I want to go to your house. I want to be in relationship with you. I want to be with you. That is radical. Because the people that society calls sinners, the people that society dismisses as not belonging for a variety of reasons, some out of choice, some out of their bodies, right? Jesus says, I want to be in relationship with you. I see you and I know you by name. So, this message, right, we hear in the words of the psalm, for it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. Our Creator has made each and every one of us from the very beginning and keeps us until the very end, and then in the next life for eternity. That message, that everyone belongs in the community of God, it's radical and it's scary to uphold. Because society, for centuries, has been teaching us who doesn't belong and uses words like sinners to reject people. You don't belong. And the message of Jesus is the opposite. You are welcome and you belong. So today, as we begin the month of June, you might start getting people asking, why we gotta have all these rainbows in June? Why all this pride stuff? Oh my God, we know you're gay. We get it. I can't answer why we should or shouldn't have pride as a society, but I can tell you that today we celebrate a Pride Eucharist because for centuries, the church has not only been complicit, but has taken the lead in saying that LGBTQ plus people do not belong because they are sinners. And so we as the church take a stance to say the God that we have known formed our inwardmost parts, knit us together in our mother's wombs, fearfully and wonderfully made us just as we are. And He sees us, she sees us, they see us, each and every one of us, just as we are. And this is a truth that cannot stay hidden in shame. This is a truth that we have to proclaim boldly, which is why we bring out all our rainbows today, so that we can jointly and boldly proclaim the truth that we have seen in Jesus. That when the crowd closes in, keeps others out, Jesus will keep looking. Wherever Jesus has to look, even up the tree, for those who are yearning and searching for Jesus. For those who are yearning and searching for belonging. For those who are yearning and searching to be accepted. That is the truth that we proclaim today. That's why today we deck in rainbows. Beloved, of God. May you have the eyes of Christ to see a world yearning to belong, yearning to be part and included as they have been made, fearfully and wonderfully by their Creator. Amen.